address the first one to you, and that is, if Congress restored the proposed $70 million in cuts that the administration has recommended for planetary science, what could you use that money for, that $70 million?
One area that the decadal survey prioritizes, as do we, pretty highly, is our Discovery and New Frontiers program. As you know, the Pluto New Horizons mission was the first in our New Frontiers program, and wildly successful, I would say, is an understatement. And we are just in the process now, hopefully in September, before the end of the fiscal year, selecting investigations for the next Discovery program. And so we would be able to keep those on track and increase the cadence with increased funding.
Thank you, Dr. Grunsfeld. Dr. Stern, let me offer you a slow pitch over home plate. And what do you think is the greatest discovery of the many discoveries made by New Horizons so far?
If you'll allow me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to suggest that there are two very important discoveries. One is scientific, and that is the one that I alluded to, that it's very clear that we do not understand the interior workings of small planets. Previously, we'd found many active bodies, satellites, for example, of the giant planets that showed activity after these many billions of years. But we always had an out scientifically in that they derived their energy in large measure from tidal heating, which is specifically a result of being in orbit around a giant planet and in a giant planet satellite system. Pluto is completely isolated. It does not generate any tidal energy with its interactions with Charon because they have reached tidal spin equilibrium. And yet somehow this world is active after 4.5 billion years. And just like a small cup of coffee will cool off much more quickly than a big vat of coffee, small planets should cool off, and yet it has not. And this is a major challenge to the field of planetary science, to understand how this can be, and it's a demonstration that only could be made by going to Pluto, which New Horizons has now done. I want to say the other big discovery, in my view, is a level of public interest in exploration, which went completely viral. I think people really like frontiers, and the United States is in a great position to extend soft power projection through just this kind of space program.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love to see the media coverage, and it shows that people are fascinated by exploration. I liked your turn of phrase a while ago, the power and attraction of exploring the unknown, and I think that does appeal to people. Dr. Russell, NASA is tasked with the responsibility of cataloging our near-Earth objects with diameters greater than 140 meters. In what way does the DAWN mission help us understand both the risk and the possibilities of detecting those near-Earth objects?
DAWN is far out of the line of fire, so it does not really add very much to that particular objective. However, there are a lot of things we are doing both by observations from the Earth and observations from space that will enable us to solve those particular problems. But DAWN is more in the area of what Dr. Stern just told us about, is trying to understand how those mid-sized bodies were formed and still are active today in the case of Ceres and a little bit in the case of Vesta 2. So we're really looking at a spectrum of bodies in the solar system.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Russell. Let me address my last question both to Dr. Papalardo and Dr. Braun. And this question is asked not only on behalf of myself, but on behalf of my Texas colleague, John Culberson. I don't know of any member who has a greater interest in Europa than John does, as you probably know and probably have talked to him about it firsthand. But the planned mission to Europa is in part, I think, designed to try to detect any possible form of life. And Dr. Braun, you mentioned the need to explore our ocean worlds. I think Europa offers one of the best possibilities of doing that. Dr. Papalardo and Dr. Braun, how could that mission to Europa inform our understanding or enable us to perhaps ferret out any type of form of life there?
what we really are trying to get at Europa first is it a habitable environment? We think it is. We want to understand the potential ingredients for life. We want to confirm an ocean. We want to understand the chemistry and whether that is conducive to life. And we want to understand, is there an energy source for life in Europa's ocean? And by that, I don't just mean tidal energy, but is there the chemical imbalance that can allow for chemical reactions to power life? This mission wouldn't really go to search for life exactly, but to understand the habitability, kind of like the initial Mars rovers did at
Right.
Mars.
And Dr. Braun.
Yeah, the Europa surface is planetary science Disneyland. And flying above it and studying it from above is like taking a 3-day drive across country from here to Disneyland and staying in the parking lot. Right? So I believe strongly, just like in our Mars exploration program, we have had orbiters and we've had landers. And the two together have what's advanced Mars science. So if we truly want to advance Europa science in the same way, it's going to take a combination of flyby/orbiter and landed assets.
Both.
Until we touch the surface, we won't know.
Okay. Thank you both for your responses. And the gentlewoman from Maryland, Ms. Edwards, is recognized for her questions.